Listening Library presents The Dark Times of Nimble Nottingham by Ryan James Black. Read for you by Andrew Fallaize. Note to listener, this audiobook includes a downloadable PDF which contains the map of London from the printed book. "2D, for always dreaming with me." Part 1. October 27th, 1940. 1. Night-time in London was a dark time. Eerie, dismal, grim. The blackout was all those things, but it sure made convenient camouflage when I was up to no good. Crouched before the wrought iron fence, I peered through the gloom at Gravenhurst Manor. Nothing but darkness waited for me there, from the garden to gargoyles and everything in between. Even the moonlight knew better than to linger. "Looks like the ghosts aren't even safe," a voice rasped in my ear. My heart leapt into my throat. I whirled from the fence, where there'd been only shadows moments before. Now there was Mouse, a filthy boy in a button-covered Air Force service cap and crooked glasses, standing close enough that I could smell the ration dinner on his breath. Meat substitute, if I had to guess. "Mouse!" I let out a shaky breath as my nerves unjangled. "You nearly scared me to death." Normally, I'd be the sneaker instead of the snuck-upon, but I'd been too preoccupied peering at the property. Too focused. Mouse could have been a tank covered in tambourines, and he still would have rattled me. "If I'd scared you to death," Mouse pointed beyond the fence at the gloomy ruined manor, "s'pose you'd fit right in." For centuries, the notoriously haunted Gravenhurst Manor had loomed ominously over Apothecary Street. Well, until last night, at least, when it was struck by a falling bomb and cracked open like a walnut. Half was now a crooked jumble of charred timber and stone, while the other half wasn't there at all, just piles of rubble scattered around the garden. It looked as though some giant monster had begun to eat it, decided it didn't much care for the taste, and thrown up what it had sampled all over the yard. I scowled and looked over Mouse's shoulder to the far side of the street, to the darkest point of shadow between a bombed-out double-decker bus and a pile of rubble that used to be the Dusty Knuckle Bakery. I couldn't see Winnie. Besides the sliver of moon, there wasn't a light to be seen in all of blacked-out London, but I knew she was there. "Winston Churchill!" I whisper-shouted into the darkness. "Some accomplice you are! You're supposed to be lookout, supposed to warn me if anyone's coming." A groan drifted back to me, and Winnie loped out into a patch of moonlight. Mangy salt and pepper fur, one eye burnt toast brown, the other cloudy like a saucer of spoiled milk. Part shepherd, part black lab, part goat if her diet was any indication. She was Winnie, mostly, Winston Churchill only when necessary. I'd found her near starved to death behind the Parliament building and given her the name a day and a half before I realised she was a girl. Winnie offered a thump of her patchy tail and began to pant, as though being a terrible lookout was tiring. "You had one job," I said, a hint of a smile on my lips. I couldn't stay mad at her. What if Mouse had been a policeman, or worse, Winnie interrupted with a growl, low and full of gravel. Her hackles shot up like they were spring-loaded. It wasn't a ghost that had her guard up, but a rat, plump and snowball white, bouncing by in the dark. Before I could even hiss at her to leave it alone, Winnie was off, frothing and snapping, barks echoing down the ruined street. I groaned. Mice, cats, frequently her own mangled tail. If she set her mind to chasing something, she was relentless. I wasn't worried about her, though. She was a born stray, just like me. I knew she'd chase that rat until she tired, nose through the trash for a while, and eventually find her way back to the old fruit warehouse we called home, just like she always did. But still there was Mouse, staring, grinning at me awkwardly. How to get rid of him? Bluntly, I decided. "Go home, Mouse," I said, and quick as a flash I was up and over the wrought-iron fence. Climbing fences and chimneys, window ledges, church spires and gargoyle parts was my specialty. I landed cat-like in scorched weeds that crunched beneath my shoes and couldn't help but smirk at Mouse's shocked expression from the other side. "It isn't safe." "Isn't safe?" Mouse leaned forward, smushing his face between the wrought iron so fast he nearly knocked his cap off. "Isn't safe for who? You're the one on the wrong side of the fence." The lenses in his glasses were a kaleidoscope of cracks, smears and smudges. It was a wonder he could see me at all. "Nim! What are you doing, Nim?" My name's not Nim, by the way. It's Jack Nottingham. Only no one calls me that. Occasionally running from the police and enjoying the perilous peace and quiet of London's rooftops had earned me a nickname. Everyone calls me Nim, because, I suppose, Jack be nimble is too much of a mouthful. "Well," Mouse squeaked, "what do you think you're doing in there?" I really don't know why I told him. Maybe it was the panicked way he was looking at me. Maybe it had just been too long since I'd told anyone anything. Maybe, probably, I was a little scared being that close to a place that looked like a nightmare factory. Whatever the reason, I spilled my plan for the haunted house heist. Get in, burgle something to sell for food, get out. Quick as a whip, silent as a shadow. "You want to go in there?" Mouse whined like an air raid siren. "On purpose?" He glanced at the manor nervously, as though it might come alive at any second and devour him. "Nim, come on, you don't need to steal." His face brightened. "I can get you something to eat." I shook my head forcefully, like he'd offered me a hand grenade with a missing pin. I considered Mouse somewhere between a kid brother and a recurring rash. Every so often he'd pop up uninvited with a cringy joke, or a bad magic trick, or an offer to split a rationed biscuit that looked like it had spent eternity in his back pocket. Mouse was kind. He meant well. But I didn't need his pity. The only thing that cramped up my insides more than hunger pangs was charity. He thought I didn't need to steal, but Mouse came from a different world than me, so I didn't expect him to understand. The Blackfriar Boys, the Gallows End Gang, the Soho 7, there were at least 20, so the name was senseless, and the other orphan crews had a monopoly on scavenging, thieving, and any other petty crime in London that might get me fed. Since I was alone, besides Winnie, and alone was just how I liked it, they shut me out. They wouldn't let me scavenge anywhere, and whenever I tried, all I ended up with for my troubles was a bloody lip, black eye, or worse. Even the Ponders End plonkers gave me grief, and those lot could hardly tie their shoes. But Gravenhurst Manor was different. The orphan gangs had whispered about it around bin fires and under bridges and in dark corners for as long as I could remember. There were rumours that ghosts roamed its grounds, monsters prowled its halls, all sorts of gruesome and ghastly horrors waited within. So no one dared go near it. No one but me. As far as I was concerned, the only things going bump in the night in that old...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?